day when I said, "Oh, my doubts and demons on their way." And whenever I have made ever is coming into play, is here and now today.
Welcome, friends and fans. This is the day and this is the moment. I want to thank you and I appreciate all of you. You get a ring of the victory bell for being here and being so amazing. And you know who else is also amazing? My next amazing guest. His name is Coach Parker. He has spent the past 23 years teaching, coaching, serving as the executive director of a nonprofit, speaking professionally to audiences nationwide. Coach Parker's leadership and motivational strategies have led his wrestling teams to an unmatched 5 Kansas State championships in the past 5 years. 5 for 5. Count them up, my friends. In 2021, he became the first coach in the history of the U.S. to lead teams to both the boys and girls team state championship in the same season. He has been awarded Teacher of the Year by 5 different organizations since 2011 and is a 6-time Kansas Coach of the Year. Coach Parker's leadership principles extend far beyond the classroom and athletic fields, offering powerful lessons for anyone aiming to excel in their given profession. As the executive director of the Jones Project, a nonprofit organization focused on teen suicide prevention, he has spoken to over 170 schools in the past 2 years. He also speaks to associations, corporations, and on the subject of leadership, building human connections, and the power of women in the workplace. So without any further delay, let's welcome the one, the only, the one who walked to school uphill in the snow, barefoot, both ways, Coach Parker.
Roger, I appreciate the intro, man. That's pretty awesome. Thank you.
Hi, great. Thanks so much, Coach, for being here. And so, listen, everybody else who's also like loving this too, make sure you click down below so that you can also make comments during the live. So without any further delay, I want to ask you here and just dive right into the questions here. Can you tell us how the Washburn Rural Women's Wrestling Team has evolved to become such a dominant force in the sport?
Man, how much time do you have? There's so much that goes into that. As anybody that's in a position of leadership knows, if you're leading an organization that has a bunch of moving pieces, that's not something that you could explain in a half-hour TV show. But I would say that the overarching principle is I have my own set of core values and what I think is really important, and that's whether I'm leading a group of female high school wrestlers or leading an organization. I think that as long as you stick close to your values and pretty much every decision that you make along the way is in line with those values, then you can't help but be successful. The flip side of that is at the same time, throughout my career, I've just made a career of going in the opposite direction of everybody else that has been successful. So if I look and I see somebody else that's been doing something a lot longer than I have, and they're really, really good at it, and they're kind of at the top of the field, if I try to emulate that person and do the things that they're doing, like I'm just going to be a diet version of whatever it is that they're doing, like kind of the same, but not quite as good. And so I've always kind of taken the approach of, okay, what are some of the elements of what's making them successful? But how can we take that and then be innovative and do something that nobody else has ever done? And it
seems like there's only one Michael Jordan. There's only one LeBron James. You try to copy them, you won't get the same results.
Exactly. And there's certain things that those guys do that as a basketball player, you would want to emulate, but at the same time, you wouldn't want to copy their game exactly. And so, it's kind of like Daryl Dawkins inventing the slam dunk. It was something that nobody had ever done before, and then all of a sudden everybody does it. And that's been the really tricky but fun and challenging part of doing what I do is now we see other people emulating what we're trying to, or what we've been doing. And so it's just this constant evolution of having to stay one step ahead of everybody else. It's like when we start seeing our stuff show up in other programs, then I know it's time for us to evolve and move along down the line a little bit.
I love it. And what role does leadership development play in that success?
It's everything. if you don't have leadership from there's really no good way to put it, but like not subordinates, but like your teammates, because that's how I look at this thing. Like every year I tell our athletes, it's like, this is not my team. Like this is yours. I get to do this as many times as I want to, God willing. And like, you guys get one chance at this. So this is your team. So you have to lead it. And we try to put young people in positions of leadership, even if they don't want to be. And when we do that, then you get to see these people grow and blossom. And it's no different than people in the workplace. If you have someone that is, if you're a manager at your place of business, and you never put the people that are below you on that totem pole, you never put them in a position where they have to make any meaningful decisions or where they have to stand up on their own and do something, they're never going to grow as professionals. And so that's what we're trying to instill in these young people now, is that like everyone can set the example. There is no reason that you need any kind of title next to your name. There's no reason that you have to be a team captain or a manager or whatever. Like every single person within the organization, regardless of experience or prestige with their title, that they can all be a leader. And so that's what we're trying to build with those people in that mindset when they're 14 through 18 years old, so that when they get out into the real world and like life after high school, they understand that, oh, this isn't something where I have to just sit back and take orders. I can be the person that steps up in front of the room and has other people that follow me.
Yeah. And especially because like I know that school systems are almost taught to help you become a good employee, but not a good leader. And so by learning these kind of like leadership skills, you're going to be able to be more effective and more productive in any position, in any job. At the karate school, I've been in the martial arts for 40 years. I'm a grandmaster in Tang Soo Do, but yet I have my students just call me Mr. Vaidya, and the adult class have called me by first name, because like you just said, it's not about the title, it's about the impact and how I can uplift others that makes the difference. Because I always tell them, like, look, anytime we go to like a national competition, this is your team. This is our goal is to make you embody it, empower it. And when you do that, now they're in charge and they drive it so well. So you mentioned like leadership development. So what are some specific ways that you incorporate leadership training into the wrestling program for young female athletes?
Okay. And the same way that I did with when I was coaching male athletes, and the same way that I do when I go into speak to corporations or associations, businesses, things of that nature. It's like, it doesn't matter the audience. Like, I think the first message everybody needs to know is leadership sucks. It's not fun. And if you're doing it correctly, it is not an enjoyable thing. And I always ask, I'll ask kids, how many of you here want to be a man or want to be a team captain? Everybody puts their hand up, and I say, put your damn hands down. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't want to be a team captain, because if you're a team captain, what that means is, yes, you get that, like they all want the little C pin that goes on the letter jacket, right? And everybody wants to be the manager at their job. But what they don't understand is, along with that comes the responsibility of, if the team loses, that's on you. Okay? Yeah. If somebody is out there and they're making mistakes and you don't correct them, that's on you. And yeah, they might get rid of that one person, but they're going to get rid of you too on a long enough timeline, because you're not leading people to the position that they need to be in. Being a leader means that you're going to lay awake at night in bed, worrying about things that are outside of your control, and worrying about people that are on your team doing things that when you aren't around. Like, that's what leadership is. And now, does it have its rewards? Absolutely. I don't think that there's any greater reward in life than helping somebody else get from where they are to where they want to be. And that's what leadership is. But in order to get there, you've got a whole lot of other things that aren't super desirable along the way. And so that's the first thing I think when we're telling them about how, look, we're trying to develop you as leaders, and for our really high end leaders that do see themselves as someone that has that title next to their name, whether it's with our team or with another team down the road. Then we have what we call our leadership academy. And I've been meeting with our team, on a weekly basis for a while now. And, I'll go out and I'll do a 1 hour keynote at a business somewhere around the country. And then I'll come back here, and that 1 hour keynote that I gave at that business, we're spreading out over about 12 weeks, where I sit down and we really do a deep dive. Every week is essentially a workshop where I go over what my 12 minutes to leadership are and what you really need to understand as a leader. And then we have a hands-on lesson that goes along with that, and put them in positions where they have a homework assignment every week, where they have to go out and practice these things out in the real world. They have to go find somebody, and that puts them outside of their comfort zone, even if it's something as simple as making other people feel seen. which I think is the number one thing that's important with leadership, because I think all human beings, all they really want is to feel like they're seen, they're heard, and that somebody gives a rip about it.
Yeah, they're empowered.
That's it.
Like years.
And so that is step one in leadership. And if you can't do that, then forget about being a leader. And so, one of the first homework,
that's key.
One of the first homework assignments I gave these kids was, okay, between now and next week, you have to find somebody that you have never met before. It has to be an underclassman. It could be a male or a female, it doesn't matter. And you have to draw that person into you, and you have to eat lunch with them one day. Send me a picture of you and that person eating lunch together, and then and tell me an interesting fact about that person, so I know that you at least had a conversation with them. And so what that does is, like, if you're a freshman, and you should see the look on these kids' faces, man. Like this freshman that has a senior that came to them, and like this person that's a high-profile person within the walls of our school, who her picture is in the newspaper all the time because she's a stud wrestler, and now all of a sudden she wants to eat lunch with me. Like their faces just light up.
They light up.
And these are kids that will never be on our wrestling team, but every time they hear about our brand, they're going to have a positive impression of that, because the only experience they've had with our brand is a super positive one where someone sought them out and made them feel noticed. And so
imagine every sports team did that at every grade level. Say every freshman got selected to sit with a sophomore, a junior, and a senior. All of a sudden, you just build a community. I mean, you change.
That's the idea. Yeah,
it's fantastic. So now, wrestling, as we always know, has always been a male-dominated sport. So how is it that you empower your female athletes to break through those gender stereotypes and build confidence as a leader?
Man, we lock down our wrestling room. That's it. And I think that's one of those things, going back to that first question about how we go in the opposite direction of what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Again, growth and contribution, I think, are two of the huge human needs. I mean, you listen to Tony Robbins talk, and those are his spiritual needs, is growth and contribution. And I do truly think that those are the two keys to happiness. And so what we did was, when this girls wrestling thing first got started, I knew that the vast majority of coaches, like, we got sanctioned in Kansas in 2019. So that's when girls wrestling officially became a thing here. I knew the vast majority of coaches were going to still run their boys program, and they'd leave the door open and be like, if any of you girls want to come in, we're doing this. And then they're like, oh, nobody wants? Okay, cool. And then they go back to just focusing on the boys. And I was like, no, like, if everybody's going to do that, let's just go in full bore on this girls thing. And so we went and just like overturned every single stone that we could find to find someone that would be willing to join our team. And so we went from having 0 girls on the team in 2018 to, in 2019, we had the largest girls wrestling team on the planet. And that's not one of the largest. It is the largest girls wrestling team on the planet. We started that first year with 67 girls. And we've been around that number between 65 and 75 every year since. And the reason that we've been able to grow that thing is because we don't subscribe to the traditional gender roles. We gave them something of their own. That was the first thing, was we're not going to share a mat room. We're not going to share a coaching staff. You're going to have your own practice time, your own uniforms, even your own logo, your own coaching staff. The only thing that girls team had, that the boys team had in common, was me. That was it, like the head coach. And so we gave them, first of all, a place and a thing of their own that they could take ownership in, and they could grow within those walls by themselves. And then somewhere around the end of that first year, they started realizing that they don't have to do all of those things that society or their peers or whatever think that they need to do. And we try to do a good job of having our girls see the big picture of high school. Yes, while you're 18 years old, it's a quarter of your conscious life, but in the grand scheme of things down the road, like, that's a big chunk. And that's real, and we respect that. But at the same time, we try to help them understand that the opinions of these people that you would not ask for advice from does not matter right now. When we fast forward 10 years from now, and that 25% now becomes 12%, and every time we get further and further down the road, the lessons that you learn here will stick with you, and you do not have to adhere to those gender norms and stereotypes that everybody was trying to throw at you when you were 14, 15 years old.
No, I told my daughter the same thing. Like, she's 12 now. She's on cheerleading, and I told her, you want to get good at it, you got to put in the work. You got to put in the work. Are you training? Are you practicing? Or do you run? Do you stretch? Do you do all the dark work that needs to be done when people are not watching? And so that
Absolutely.
lifts your spirits. And that's truly, I think that's in any sport, whether it's a sport or a job. Are you doing the work when people are not watching? So that you can be at your best when people finally see the tip of the iceberg and they say, oh, wow, your overnight success. Yeah, it took 6 years of training behind the scenes
Right.
to become that overnight success. And that's truly there's a, I'm going to break a myth here. There are no overnight successes. Yeah, truly. Everybody who you think is an overnight success has been working at it for a very long time. So, Coach, I want to say here, first of all, great job with that. Let's shift gears a little bit, talk a little bit about you. And also, I want to share with you also, if you want to hire a coach as a speaker in your corporation or community or school, here's his information, how you can reach out to him. It's info@DamonParkerSpeaks.com, info@DamonParkerSpeaks.com. So, Coach, we're going to move forward into what I call the softer side of series and really get to know you as a person. This is like the speed dating round. We just want to get to know you. So keep this all brief and right to the point. Tell us more about where did you grow up? How did you grow up?
All right. I grew up in the Midwest in Manhattan, Kansas. I was born in Los Angeles, but moved to Manhattan when I was young. Son of two educators. My dad teaches at Kansas State University. My mom was an elementary music teacher when I was growing up, and had a wonderful childhood. Grew up and I fell into athletics. Like I've come from a long line of band geeks. My dad's a music professor, and I'm like proud to call myself a band geek as well. But I just wasn't very good. I did not have the gifts that the other people in my family did. But for whatever reason, I kind of took to athletics, and so I took that athletic endeavorship, and I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. Went on to wrestle in college, and then after graduating from Kansas State in 2003, I became a kindergarten teacher and taught kindergarten for 8 or 9 years in Kansas City, and absolutely loved it. But then I kind of get the 7-year itch when it comes to jobs, and so we were a couple years overdue and moved to Topeka, Kansas, just kind of on a whim. And I think that subconsciously we all know what we want professionally, whether that's a conscious thing or not. And I think that I've always been the kind of person that's, and this is a fault. This is not a positive attribute, but I've always been a kind of person that feels like I need validation through accomplishments. And I need to be able to do something that nobody else has done before. I think there's something incredibly attractive about doing something that nobody in human history has ever done before. And we saw an opportunity to do that at the school that I'm at right now. So we came here, and and that's about it. It's tough to tell your life story in 30 seconds, but
of course, yeah. What about growing up? Is there a fun fact about you that maybe people didn't know?
How about this? In the summer after kindergarten, I weighed 95 pounds. I was the largest kid in school up until about 8th grade.
Wow. Woo-hoo. Yeah, my son, he just hit a growth spurt in the past 2 years. He was here, and now he's up here somewhere in the past 2 years. Yeah, so I feel you. Woof. He's not one of the tallest kids in his class. What about growing up? Did you was there a book or was there a movie that inspired you to become who you are?
I wouldn't say so. No. To be completely honest, I was not a huge reader until I grew up and matured enough to understand the power of reading. So I read what was assigned to me, and that was about it.
Any recent book that has really inspired you nowadays, like recently?
Oh gosh, I read all of the time. I'm currently reading Leadership Lessons from Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach of all time. Of course, like there's all your ones that everybody checks on that list, like How to Win Friends and Influence People or Atomic Habits, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, all those kind of books. But I'm constantly trying to put things into the fold. I think the one that's had the most impact recently was The Comfort Crisis, and that's one I'd recommend to just about anybody.
Fantastic. I'm reading right now. Last week, I just finished Miracle Morning last week, and this week I'm reading Buy Back Your Time with oh God, what's his name? Dan. I forget his last name, and it's really talking about how you can increase your processes and operations to speed up how you do things, and you can buy back your time through hiring. So great. I love it. What about what's your favorite kind of music? What kind of pumps you up?
Uh, it depends on what the situation is. Again, coming from a long line of musicians, I'm not somebody that performs it very well, but I have a deep appreciation for it, and I can find value in just about any genre of music. I
Mhm.
am one of those rare birds that rather than like listening to music while I'm
Yeah.
doing something else. Like I'll just sit down and listen to music. And with as much as I've been on the road speaking and all that, I'm in my car all of the time, and so that gives me plenty of time to not just listen to audio books and podcasts, but at the same time, just like
Yeah.
sit down and dive in and find new music. And the great thing about the way the world works now is
Yeah.
we have such incredible access that we've never had before to
Oh,
artists that you never would have been able to find
yeah.
even 5-10 years ago. And
Right.
so, yeah, it holds a great place in my life, but I can't say that there's one genre I listen to more than another.
Beautiful. All right. What is your favorite food?
The food that is currently in my mouth when I'm eating it. I'm a food guy, man. Like there's no secret about that one. Food's like music. It's whatever you can give me. If it's good, I'll eat it.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do though. Okay. Hello, old country buffet. Yeah, like we need like one of everything in the green room. Thanks. All right. So that's my real call. So like we're gonna get you set up in the green room. So coach, like before we shift into our next segment, tell me please, what is one thing that you want people to recall about you?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question. Is that you mean like so? If you were to ask somebody at the end of this interview, or are you saying like an end of life type thing? What they would want to remember?
You bet. Let's talk about end of life. What is the sum of what you've done?
All right. Well, I think I can put it pretty well with what I see every morning in my bathroom mirror. In the top two corners, there's in one there's a sign that says "You're the best, damn it," which reminds me that every
Yeah,
single day I want to approach it as if I am the
yeah.
best at whatever it is I'm going to do, and I need to maintain that spot. But then on the other side, there's another sticky note that says, "Whose life are you going to change today?" Because I really do believe that there is an opportunity every single day, if you keep your eyes open, to find someone who you can make a small difference in that person's life, for which the ripple effects will change the outcomes in their life. And so I try to keep those things up there as a reminder to be the best at whatever it is that I do. Keeps me
Mhm.
driven towards those goals that I have, but B, at the same time, not miss those opportunities to add value to the lives of people around me.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. So you are the best, and whose life are you changing today? Is that right?
That is correct. Or whose life
Beautiful.
are you going to change today? Yeah.
You know what's funny? I have, so it's not here in this room. I just went to a Toastmaster last night. And one thing I do with my speaking, I always bring my own timer. And on it, I wrote at the top of it, "You are amazing." So that way, every speaker that borrows my timer, they see that. "You are amazing." And at the bottom of it says, "Love, comma, everyone."
Oh, that's
And
great.
part of that is the reason why I do that is to remind all of us we all want to feel like we belong, like we are included in something, and that's one of those little tiny reminders that subconsciously gives you that quick dopamine hit every time you look at the timer. You're amazing, love everyone. And you know what's funny? If you take out the comma, love everyone, it's a call to action.
Right on.
So true. When you start thinking about that, when you love everyone, your life starts to get fulfilled. I mean, truly. I mean, and I've experienced that myself. All right, so Coach, when send you to the green room with all that amazing food, please try to save me some. And while he's in there, we're going to go shift to our sponsor segment. So, folks, right now coming up, we have a few events that I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to be a part of. First is we got the amazing Potapalooza coming up November 13th. There is that link down below. It'll also be in the show notes. If you have not been yet, what are you waiting for? The amazing weekly speaker confidence mastermind that is free. It's just a small donation, and you get lifetime access. And an amazing tool that I just used recently as a speaker, Talkadot. If you use that, guess what? Last week I just gave my keynote speech at Pfizer World Headquarters. Within 30 minutes of me posting my QR code, I had over 105 testimonials and feedback right away. So if you want to have that sort of success in your your presentation, and then you can give them a report afterwards to the event planner, you definitely want to grab that. Now, Also, don't forget that we also do our own branding and help you to do yours. So here's an example of what we can do for you.
When you throw a rock into a lake, what happens? No, there's a splash. You make an impact, and then you get waves. And then you don't know where those waves are going. Those waves are going past around the reeds, and you don't know where that impact is. So all of you out there, when you're on stage, you don't know where your impact is going to end. It's never going to end.
All right, folks. So as we continue this segment with our 60-second mind shift, I want to ask you something. When was the last time that you started to take extreme ownership in your life? So Coach was talking about how this is not his team, it is the girls' team. And think about what you've done in your life where you've finally said, you know what? Yeah, every single decision that I make is really my life. That becomes my impact, my choices, my effect that I'm making in the community and in the world. So when was the last time that you at work or in your sport or with your family said, you know what? I should have paid attention more to my wife. I should have helped my daughter last night with her essay. I should have helped my son with his costume for Halloween. Did you make the effort? Did you take extreme ownership? We were talking about how when a team doesn't perform well, it's not always the fault of the team. It's the fault of the captain. In corporate America, there was a player who went into corporate business, and and his manager was addressing the entire team's poor performance. And he asked the guy, hey, what happens in the NFL? Like, don't they always, if it's poor performance, they replace the player, don't they? And he responded very clearly, well, actually, usually they replace the coach. Because what happens is, if you've read the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, they talk about how the SEAL teams have such a high standard, but it's a different standard than you would expect. It's not only physical, it's also about mental, it's all about camaraderie, it's about loyalty. And the team captains are the ones that actually lead by example, not just by telling, not with titles. So for example, when they had a boat cruise, they had to run out and take these 400-pound boats across the beaches and bring them back. The team that had the slowest times out of 6 teams kept coming in last every single time. And then the captain of that boat team complained to the others, say, this is not fair, I got the worst people and this is terrible, like they don't listen, they're not going to be great. So you know what the SEAL trainers did? They said, all right, we'll take the captain of the first place boat and switch it with the last place. Guess what happened? That first place leader took that last place team, and guess what? They became the first place boat leader again. And that person, that captain that was leading the last place team, his team didn't do so well, did they? They didn't win. They actually came in last again. So it was not about the team. It was about the leadership or lack thereof showing them. So let's bring Coach Parker back, ask him how was his food, and also give him ask him his thoughts. So welcome back, Coach. How was the food?
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah, thank you. Great setup.
And so listen, what did you think about that? What was your big takeaway from that 60-second mindset, and what would you add to that?
I don't know that there's a whole lot that I would add to it. I love that book, Extreme Ownership, and I've got a big quote from that, like on the outside of my locker, that I see every single day before I can go into practice. It just says, if your team has problems, it's your fault. It's nobody else's fault but yours. And I think that's one of those problems, or one of those things that people don't understand about leadership, is like you have to take ownership in the team. And then underneath that, I've got a subheading that I wrote myself that it's like, if your team has problems, it's your fault. If your team has success, it's somebody else's fault. I think that's what leadership is, because if our team does really, really well, I will credit our athletes when I'm talking to the reporters. And if I'm talking to the media and I can't credit our athletes, then I'll credit our administration, or I'll credit our fans, or I'll credit our supporters or our parents. If I can't credit any of those people, then I'll credit luck. Right? But as a leader, you never point the finger back at yourself and say, like, I did a great job with this. What you do instead is you point your finger at your people and you make them feel seen and recognized. But if there's a problem, then that starts and ends with you. And you have a choice on whether or not you're going to own that problem and whether you're going to do something about it. And the people that do are the people that have continued success. And I really think that if you look at people that have continued sustained success, those are the people that do exactly what you were just talking about. They take ownership in these things. But at the same time, if you look in any venue, whether it's the NFL or whether it's high school girls wrestling or whether it's in business, there are really only a small handful of organizations that are going to finish that have the potential to finish at the top every year. Like, we go into every NFL season knowing that the Cleveland Browns are not going to win the Super Bowl, right? It's because and that's just the way that leadership works, man. And like, that doesn't mean that you have good teams every once in a while, but like, if you have people that are willing to be accountable, willing to own those mistakes and understand what leadership actually is and make those constant moves in the right direction, then you've got that much smaller circle of people or organizations that actually have a chance to be successful every year. Everybody else is on the outside looking in.
I'm like looking back, like there's a reason why, like back in the 90s, the Cowboys had such an outstanding organization, and like they won three Super Bowls. Back in from 2000 to 2010s, why the Patriots had such a dynamic like leadership team, and they had that team culture, and they kept winning and winning and winning and winning. And so it doesn't happen just with athletes, but athletes do come and go on most teams. But it's that leadership, the culture, that keeps on extending that leadership ability to everybody. And so after we close off our interview here today, I want to say, Coach, amazing story, amazing leadership examples, and keep on doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job, and you're a fine example to a lot of managers out there that want to become leaders. And I can say by example, just what you just said. I remember at my last job, I had a manager who would, when things wouldn't go wrong, she would blame us, our team. Versus after leaving that job and going to my most recent position, that manager, she was a true leader. When she had success, just like you were saying, she would always edify her team. All of us were the reason for the success, and that all of a sudden, that builds that brand loyalty. It builds that team culture of positive leadership. And so I completely agree with you. Like, that is the way to go. So last question of the day here. If someone were to give you a blank check, what's your grand vision to change the world?
Man, there are so many different ways that you could take that one, but if I had, I'll modify it just a little bit. If I had some pixie dust, I could sprinkle it on a situation to fix it. The work that I do with my nonprofit, where I'm in a different school every day talking on teen mental health and suicide prevention. The biggest thing that we run into is there's no consistency from district to district in what they're doing as far as SEL curriculum goes in that school. There's no consistency as far as budgeting or as far as staffing. And so it's really, really difficult to have anything that you can use in those schools in any kind of consistent way. And so we kind of have to reinvent the wheel everywhere that we go. And so if I could fix one situation right now, just because it's the one that I'm closest to and I care the most about, it would be that. It would be having people actually take the mental health crisis as seriously as they should, and then take steps to help conquer it.
Indeed. Thank you so much. That's amazing. And that's right in alignment with my heart. I talk about people with invisible disabilities and how there's a lot of people have a blind spot to that. So let's take that more seriously. So when you talk about the mental health issues, they fall right into that. Somebody who is neurodiverse, ADHD, autistic, on the spectrum, maybe they have more physical things that are hidden, fibromyalgia, myasthenia gravis, different physical elements as well that are not clearly visible. But they need an understanding leader to take note of them, so that way you can find that what they call the diamonds within your own staff. So Coach, there is Coach's link down below if you want to connect with them. It's info@DamonParkerSpeaks.com. So Coach Damon, you've been amazing today. Thank you so much. And we're going to end today. Thank you. I got to just say, we could go on like this for another 2 hours. And
sure.
Unfortunately, we can't. Thank you so much. I've truly enjoyed it. For those that are watching live, you get to thrive. And when you're on the replay, you get to play again. Please give us some likes and some hearts so we know that you care and that you got some value from our show today. So this is Coach Roger signing off. And as always, believe it and become it. And we'll see you all on the next show. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Roger.
Yep. All right. 3 quick questions for you, 30 seconds, and we are out of here. Number 1, what was your favorite part of this whole process of being on the show?
I love doing this kind of thing, man. Like just getting out and spreading the message that we have, and hopefully it's helpful for people.
Great. And what was your biggest takeaway from the show today, training-wise or anything else?
Gosh, I'm not sure. Like, to be completely honest, like since I formulated the questions, I probably don't have a whole lot of takeaways from it because it's stuff that I'm pretty well versed in. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to think on that one.
We'll come back another time to that. All right, great. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how much you recommend me to somebody else's stage?
Absolutely, yeah.
Beautiful. All right, folks. Podcast team knows what to do. We are off, and thank you so much. All right.